Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We are your hosts, David O.
And Carly R.
And today we're joined by our very special guest, Mandy. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Where are you from, Mandy?
I'm from Westminster, Maryland. Born in Baltimore.
All right.
Yeah.
So, wait, Mandy, is that Westminster or Westminster?
Oh,
Westminster?
Yeah. Westminster? Okay, yes.
Now I'm going to mispronounce it.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have this debate a couple weeks ago. When were you first introduced to recovery?
It was a couple times. Various points, different fellowships, but finally, when I was 31.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been clean?
Almost 12 years.
Almost 12
Yeah.
years. Fantastic.
11 years and,
7/7/11.
yeah.
It's a fantastic date. And we probably won't see you, but congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. And with all that out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to you. Share your story with us, so take it away.
Okay. So I think I was about 14 when I started using. Pretty, recreational, just like everybody else, kind of. I think for the most part, I was bored.
Yeah.
I was 14, so I was just coming out of middle school, about to go into high school, and my parents lived on a farm, so they didn't recreational sports or activities were not a thing. They went out, they worked, Yeah. So I was introduced to softball in gym class. And I was like, I want to do this. I want to be a catcher. Mom, can you take me up there? Sign-ups are this weekend. Let's go. So we go up there. They told her, she whips out her checkbook, and they told her how much it was. I don't even remember, but she closed her checkbook and she was like, no, I don't think so. And I was like devastated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that kind of, it kind of sparked like that. I was like, well, I guess I can't play sports. I can't do anything cool.
Yeah.
So
that's a fucking bummer.
It sucked, man.
Yeah.
So every year we visited family. Like my mom her family's from the South, from like North Carolina. Like right in the mountains where Virginia, Tennessee, and North Carolina meet. And it's straight up hillbilly.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And so went with her in the summer. We used to go away.
The Smokies or the Blue Ridge Mountains? I don't know. Eric, look that up. Difference between Smoky and Blue Ridge Mountains.
Well, they're definitely different, dude.
I think it's Blue Ridge, but I could definitely be wrong.
Yeah. Because right where Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee meet, that could be the Smokies. Google it real quick. All right, Mandy, continue.
So for where my family lived in North Carolina, like from where I live right now, Westminster, to go to Hanover, Pennsylvania was like, it's like a half-hour drive. And that's how it was to get from where they lived in North Carolina to Mountain City, Tennessee. Like it was just around the mountain, literally.
Yeah.
There's not much to do.
No.
So that was where I drank my first bottle of Boone's Farm.
Ooh. Nice.
Right.
Yep, that was going to be a question.
Very appropriate for the time,
yeah, in the mountains. Drinking Boone's Farm.
And Boone's Farm was kind of like, I guess, like the high noon of its, or like wherever that stuff is now. Like, wasn't that kind of like this, like that, right? Back in the day? Like, they were like wine coolers, right? Boone's Farm.
Yes. They tasted like wine cooler. I remember it.
Oh, yeah.
Strawberry, whatever. Strawberry, whatever it was called.
Too sweet for me. I'm not a wine guy.
So, and they grew their own pot.
Nice.
And they made their own crank.
Oh, nice.
Right.
There we go. Now we're talking Appalachia.
Right. But I wasn't, I didn't get in, at 14, I didn't get into the crank.
No.
Very much. But, like that became an add-on to like every summer. Like I kind of knew that I was going to go down there and hang out with my cousins, and it was just my mom that went, and we were visiting her family. My dad never went. So I didn't have any rules, But then in the meantime, my dad, he's an alcoholic, but he quit. He never went to the rooms ever. And, but he smoked. He smoked like 2 packs of Newports a day back then. And he used to leave them on his kitchen table because he's a freak out about fires, like he didn't want to, I guess, fall asleep with a cigarette. So I was like, I was taking cigarettes from him like 2 a night.
Oh yeah.
So it was that kind of stuff. It wasn't a daily using thing is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
From like 14 to like 16. But somehow made it through high school. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was a definite stoner.
Yeah.
I was definitely the kid that walked around with the Nirvana t-shirts and the flannels, and I was the grunge kid and the Chucks and just hung out with all the stoners. But I was also the kind of person that I was definitely a chameleon. I could easily, put myself in any situation or any crowd or talk to any person or, like I wasn't stereotypically stuck to one clique, I guess. I did graduate. I actually could have graduated early, not because I'm smart, but because I was able to get all the credits.
Oh yeah.
Like I did the bare minimum to get through. And actually they had that like work release.
Did you enjoy high school?
No.
Okay.
I hated school. Period.
Yeah. Did you guys enjoy high school?
I think it was a huge waste of time.
I loved high school. So not this school, just the years, the time.
I regret not dropping out at 16 and going to college. That is an actual regret of mine.
Oh, good Lord.
I mean, looking back at it now, I kind of wish I could go back and fix a couple things, but not all of it. But
14 to 18 was great. We had no responsibilities.
For you.
True.
We had no responsibility.
I did not have a great 14 to 18.
No, you did not. You had your legs broken and all sorts of crazy shit. Yeah.
I was a literal,
You were a guinea pig.
I'm a, I guess what would it be? Like the stereotypical statistic of the Purdue opiate epidemic.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so, I found my crowd. My close-knit friends. Was a garbage can user in high school. Tried everything. I do remember, I just told this story the other day. So I had this creative writing class. I think I was a junior. And this teacher, he was cool, right? And in this creative writing class, he would always write down the lyrics. Like he would handwrite the lyrics to like Alice in Chains and like Nirvana and like, and we would break down the lyrics.
Yeah.
And he would play the song. I mean, but there were times like he would get up on his desk and he'd be like jumping around like an orangutan. I mean, it was like, whoa, like what is he on?
Nirvana for high school is kind of like intense for some, like In Utero and like some of the songs, like breaking that down in high school is kind of intense.
Yeah. But so I remembered dropping acid.
Oh shit!
So I would peak in time in creative writing.
You timed your peak with creative writing class.
with that crazy guy.
Do you still have some of that creative writing? Because I'm sure it's amazing. Or terrible.
I don't. I have no idea where it is. But I mean, I remember those kinds of things. You know what I mean? I didn't go to my senior prom because the guy I wanted to go with me wouldn't go. So what did I do? I went out with friends and got high and don't remember the rest of the night. You know what I mean?
Exactly what I did.
Yeah.
You guys,
I went to prom. It wasn't cool. So
no, it was not.
I prefer. I was like,
I stayed for like a half hour and then I was like, okay, I have a party set up, so I'm gonna go do do we have a
wish I did that.
Bye.
Yeah. So I mean, it was crazy. I mean, the people I was hanging with, even those later years, like 16, 17, I was running down with this guy who I had no business hanging out with. Way too much, older than me, going down to the city. He was copping his dope. I wanted coke. That was a great pair.
Yeah. There you go.
And even then, kind of like my drug of choice, like my favorites really became like alcohol, weed and coke,
Yep.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I didn't go to college, didn't really have the chance. You know, my parents, they don't believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, it's a waste of time, go to work. And I did for the most part. But I still found every opportunity to get high.
Oh, yeah.
And I, you know, so I
Paycheck
believe,
means more drugs.
yeah, you know, like I started out because I was bored, you know, and then, you know, kept going because it was like, oh, now I feel like I'm a part of this crowd. Like I've got these friends and I could hang with them. And, you know, like I feel like I'm a part of something. There's no real direction. Moved out of the house when I was 17. Moved in with the first guy who said I didn't have to leave. You know, he was an alcoholic. And that was when I first started going to meetings. I moved from the farmhouse to an apartment on Main Street in Westminster. And I would walk to a meeting because he thought I had a problem because I smoked weed.
What?
But like I would come home and he would, you know, hand me a Busch Light and be like, "How was the meeting?"
Hey, that's legal.
That's gross.
That's a legal drug.
So
right there.
I was, yeah, I mean, that didn't,
Jesus, Eric.
I dropped the mic, sorry.
Okay.
so that didn't help, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, and that relationship was toxic.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, that was also when I started bartending. So as soon as I turned 21, I mean, I was always in the restaurant business since 14.
Mm-hmm.
That was usually my job.
Yep.
When I was 21, well, and plus I'm serving, right? So before that, I'm like watching the bartenders and it looked so attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because they were like basically the life of the party, controlling it, you know,
Yeah.
but I was also watching their tip jars.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, man, they're hustling. Like I could really make some money. And so as soon as I turned 21, I like basically dove behind the bar.
Yeah.
You know, my first bar job was Albinstown Inn, like way out in Hampstead, like almost Hartford County line.
Good Lord. I'm sure there's tons of bar flies in there.
Way redneck. And the boyfriend at the time didn't like it. You know,
Yeah.
whatever. And that relationship eventually dwindled out. You know, and then from there, I just went from, you know, bar gig to bar gig to bar gig. You know, I just became, you know, well, I always was a blackout user. So, you know, I've been in 3 accidents that were a direct result of my using. You know, being out at the bar, being out with my friends, having too many drinks, blacking out, getting behind the wheel, running off the road.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't just scratch and dent. I mean, I total vehicles, you know,
Yeah.
like I total them.
That's the name of the song.
Yeah. I mean, I
I don't just scratch and dent. I
Yeah.
total.
yeah, pretty much. So, and then I met this guy who was about the same age as me. We kind of hung out at the same bar, Johansson's in Westminster.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually the bar down under, though.
The speakeasy underneath the bar. The bar underneath the bar.
Yeah. And, you know, just because we were hanging out, shooting pool, mutual friends, you know, there was always karaoke there too. And, you know, so it was just the people in that town, you know, and who was hanging out. We started dating. We got into a really bad car accident. It was on the Beltway. We were living in Glen Burnie at the time. And actually, that car accident, I mean, we were both maybe a little stoned.
Yeah.
Like, I remember actually, we had like smoked everything we had before we left.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, we'll go home now. There's nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell asleep in the passenger seat. We were in a Jeep Cherokee. Mm-hmm. And 2001. And there's always construction on the Beltway, but right as you're heading towards Glen Burnie, like 695 and 95 split, it was like right when they were first starting to widen it.
Oh, yeah.
And we were in the fast lane and but I was asleep in the passenger seat, no seatbelt. He always used to argue with me and I'd be like, just fucking leave me alone. And so there was this girl who caused the accident. She was like 19, like really unfortunate, like driving a little car. And she realized that the last second she was going to go off on 95. And she was like, oh my God, and like came over. And so she merged over on a Dodge Caravan. I remember that. So he got squirrely and sideways in front of us. And he basically hit the, what are those things called?
The Jersey wall.
Yeah. Head on. Oof. And we basically T-boned him. You know what I mean?
God. Yeah.
So like, I don't have a seatbelt on and I'm like, I fly forward and the airbag thankfully deploys and it catches my wrist and like right at the windshield and in the roof and the airbag. So it crushed my wrist. Oof. Thankfully, that was the worst of the injuries, like on 695,
Yeah.
Evening traffic. And I remember looking in the passenger, looking in the mirror and seeing like all these lights. And there's like all kinds of smoke, I guess from brakes and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then this tractor and trailer just, like goes through all of that. And you can see like the smoke like swirling, you know what I mean? Like, and then it was like at that moment I realized I was like, something's wrong. And I like reached my hand in and I could just feel, and I like started to go into shock. Anyway, I tell that story because that's where the pain pills came in. Mm-hmm. Like that's where the opiates came in. And I was so pissed off. Like,
yeah, I
was so pissed off and bitter at the world. It was your fault that I got in that accident. You were probably never even anywhere around that place, And I was such an asshole to so many people. And it wasn't, it was an accident.
Yeah.
And they were going to amputate my hand. And then, thankfully, my ex and my mom, she's there by now. They took me to South Baltimore Hospital, same hospital I was born. Mm-hmm. And, the emergency doctor was like, we're going to have to amputate. And my ex was like, nope, I will scoop her up and take her to Hopkins.
Yeah.
And so they didn't. But that led to excruciating pain for like weeks. Mm-hmm. Like, they tried to go in and set things back, but it just didn't. And like basically had to go back in the hospital for pain management. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could tell them that I was just like kind of in pain and they would like, oh, here.
When was this, Mandy? Like what time frame? Was this like the early 2000s?
2001, yeah.
Yeah, 2001.
So yeah, right during like the opiate, like, these pills aren't addictive. Like here, this is an Oxy 40. You're going to be did you have a compound fracture out of curiosity? Is that why?
It was completely shattered.
Both. Did you have a compound though? Like was there any like bones sticking through or was it just like you had no, like everything was kind of.
Yeah. Because that's when I started to go into shock.
Yeah.
When I pulled my hand out and it was like, it had blood on my hand. Like it felt mush and then it was blood. You know what I mean?
Ooh, mush. So, I don't like when you describe like a bone as mush.
Yeah, it was gnarly. So eventually I had to I basically interviewed surgeons.
Yeah.
After that and found this young guy right out of med school that was like, we don't have to amputate. I can fix it. And I'm like, you're the man for the job. Yeah. And he was like, but you have to promise me that you quit smoking cigarettes. And I was like, oh yeah, sure.
Why?
Why? Just because you would heal slower.
That's
think
some
was
like
his
perceptive bullshit.
right. But I just remember that's what he said.
Probably true.
Yeah, but like,
I don't
It
care
just
though. If
sounds
he's
like an
saying I'm going to
agenda,
save your
you know what I
hand,
mean?
I'll
Yeah.
quit smoking.
Right. Well, I tried.
Yeah.
But what I did was it led to that behavior where I was like, oh, let me not smoke an hour before I go see him. Let me take a shower real quick so he doesn't smell it on me.
Mhm.
Like I got so self-conscious
the addictive
about it.
behavior.
Right. I'm like trying to still, manipulating the situation, right? At one point, I had 6 surgeries on my wrist. And at one point, I had plates, screws, all of that, artificial bone.
Ooh.
Like they wanted to go into my hip, and I was like, no way. A cadaver, pig,
Whoa.
artificial. Those are my choices. And
I'm going cadaver. I'm going dead person
no,
bones.
I said artificial.
100%.
I mean, the pig though. I mean, we're fairly related.
No,
to
fuck
pigs.
that. Give me the haunted bones.
Yeah.
Mr. Nobody, everyone has a pet pig. with their
So-
words.
At some point, though, I ended up with like pins and coming out in 2 different places and an external fixator that like basically was the size of a refrigerator door handle, like keeping everything straight.
How many pins did you? How many open wounds did you have?
Yeah, you're speaking Eric's language.
Yeah. I had 4. I had 4 pins. Or actually, like, so I didn't have pins. I had only screws. Did you have screws and pins? I'm
Oh
guessing.
my god, this.
It wasn't like a halo thing, but it was just like
It was
there was pins here and pins in my arm, pins in my hand.
okay. You just had the fix it. You didn't have that obnoxious.
It's kind of a shame this is
Mhm.
only audio because we're looking
Yeah.
at scars right now. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I love scars.
So yeah, so at that point, all I had to do was call my doctor's office
Mm-hmm.
and say like I'm out.
Yep.
I mean, it was so easy. I mean,
Oh yeah.
but it was justified, really.
Mhm.
But it was so easy.
Yeah.
So I was going into my 4th surgery, and they did all the prep and stuff. I don't know. It was like because there were several times where it was like, we're going to put this plate on here for this long, and then we're going to see how it heals, and then we can maneuver things, and we can work on this side a little bit more or whatever. And so as a woman, when they're taking you, to the emergency or the surgery room, they're like, is there any chance you're pregnant? And I'm like, no, I'm not pregnant. Like, no way. And I am using so heavily at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am drinking everything, smoking everything, swallowing, snort, anything I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not pregnant. There's no way. I was. So I had the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a couple of days later, at like 6 weeks, I was like, fuck, I think I'm pregnant. It was just like that thought. Went and got a test, confirmed it. I was like, okay, I'm pregnant. And then like found out like on a Monday, and then on Thursday I miscarried. I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, because the amount of substances I was continuously pumping into my body at that point, and then the surgery and the anesthesia and
that's a lot for
right. I think
baby.
Now I look at it and I'm like, I think God definitely did me a favor at that point. Not only could I wasn't in the headspace, whatever. 2 months after that, I got pregnant with my oldest daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually probably turned out to be a little bit of a blessing because there was a lot of bone growth that we were trying to get, and I had to have a bone stimulator. I had to wear around it that set electromagnetic pulses to get the blood flow there to
Good Lord.
get some bone growing, right? So they were like, hey, you're pregnant. Like, you're going to be growing a little person. You know what I mean? Like,
you're going to be
this will
filled with
help.
a lot of crazy natural chemicals that are
right.
Yeah.
So, not happy to say that I used during my pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
I did try really hard to limit it. Like, it doesn't make it okay, but I did, only smoke weed. Like, this is natural.
Mm-hmm.
This is okay.
Yep.
Drank a little bit So I did cut back.
Yeah.
But I still smoked cigarettes. The gynecologist said, you do more harm to the baby if you quit. I really tried to cut back. So I had my daughter, and she was healthy. She was actually born at a motorcycle rally in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Because her father was working at a motorcycle shop, and, they went up there for the bike show, and I was 8.5 months pregnant. And I was like, you fucking asshole, you're not going there without me.
Yeah.
You didn't ride on a bike, did you?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't ride on a bike. He did. No, we rode together in a black Jeep I had at the time. And it was hot as hell. July 24th. And
yeah. It must have been miserable.
It was miserable.
8.5 months pregnant in July.
And people were like, what if you go into labor? And I'm like, they make hospitals in Pennsylvania.
Oh man.
Common misconception: no hospitals in Pennsylvania. Not one. Several jails.
Well,
no
eventually
hospitals.
I found myself at Carlisle General Hospital, whatever it was, right around the corner.
Yeah.
But and also in this particular relationship, not only, we were both using ridiculously hard. He was always gone. So it was not a healthy, very toxic relationship. I'm in the hospital in bed with the baby, and he goes back to the motorcycle rally.
What a dick!
Yeah.
Fuck that.
And I remember thinking to myself in that very moment, like, I'm going to do this by myself. Like, this is going to be this is all me, man. So, we get home, and things, I end up having surgery again, and, after I've had Maddie and all that stuff. So 18 months after Maddie was born, my twins were born.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I have twins.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're like, you say that. That's deep. Like,
do you have twins? You don't fucking know.
At the time, I was, I kept my oldest in diapers because I was like, there's no way I can potty train and also change diapers on these twins. And, just things like that. Like, there's no way I can breastfeed. Like, how can I breastfeed these twins? It was just so much. And it was, again,
God gave
by
you
myself.
2 boobs.
They told me that
and
too.
2 arms, but you lost an arm. So
they were
how
like,
are you gonna
They were like, you can hold them like a football on each side, and I was like,
yeah. Have you not seen the beautiful Instagram
I was like,
photos?
so when my
women?
18-month-old is like running around the house getting into something, and
You're
I'm
just double fisting twins.
Yeah, I was like, no, thank you. No,
I'm a terrible.
thanks.
Carly is staring at me. You are such a dick,
That is
David.
a terrible thing that you just said.
It is a terrible thing I just said.
I don't even have words for him. I'm just gonna let him
Sounds like
go.
you're using them as sock puppets in some horror movie. The way you just.
I'm a terrible person.
I'm just gonna let it run its course.
What do I know about breastfeeding? I'm an idiot. Keep going. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, that was a crazy time, man. I don't know how I did it. At one point, I didn't really suffer from postpartum depression. Like, I didn't have really great pregnancies either. I didn't feel like I did not enjoy pregnancy. You know why? Because I couldn't get high the way I wanted to. So, I think the twins were 2 months old. My oldest was like 20 months old. And I called my mom one day. I'm still living in Glen Burnie at the time. And I said, Mom, I don't want to hurt them. I want to leave them. Like, I just want to get in my car without these 3 little leeches and go somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was literally just me. Because he was like off doing fucking whatever he was doing. You know what I mean? And she said to me, she's like, okay, listen to me. She said, pack some clothes. don't worry about how much. I have a washer and dryer. Like, I know this, right? Mm-hmm. But at the time, she's like, pack up all the formula you have, put it in your car, don't forget the kids, and come home.
Yeah.
It's exactly what she said, you know? And I was like, okay. And I did that. And so there was like a couple of years there that I was not working in the bar. I was not working in the restaurant because, I had this like broken hand, this broken thing going on. And so I moved back home. That gave me the chance to go back to work. Mom was working full time at Walmart in Eldersburg. Bless her heart. And she would come home. As soon as she came home, I'd be dressed, ready, out the door. And I would work my shift, get my shifty after work, and I would, go to the party afterwards because I was a bartender. So I knew where all the parties were.
Yep.
I knew who had this fully stocked basement. I knew if my Coke hookup had it by the drink he ordered.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the drink?
If he had it, he got like a Diet Coke. If he didn't, he got a Yingling.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I was like, all right, it's on. Okay. And my mother would get up in the middle of the night and change my kids' diapers and give my twins their bottles after working her full-time shift.
Yeah.
While I was out there ripping and running, making sure I got back in the door at my parents' house by 4:30 a.m. before the old man got up to get ready to go to work because I didn't want to face him, Right around that point is when I had also gotten into those accidents, and that was like the second time I was introduced to the rooms, because my Chevy Suburban had gotten towed home, and I like ran down in a ditch with these big boulders, and I tried to start it and drive out of there.
Of course.
And
it's a Suburban. It's fine.
Right.
It's what it's built for.
And my ex actually had gotten me out of there, like pulled me through the passenger side window and threw me in the tow truck and made me hide, like in the passenger side floor under the dash because the cops were just starting to show up. And like people pulled over and were like checking on me. You know what I mean? But I got out of there before they showed up or before the cops who knew who the driver was.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff kept happening. And also, I should say that when I had moved from Glen Burnie back home to Westminster, he followed me, which you'd think he would, right? Those are his kids.
Yeah.
But the second time in the rooms was when it was like, my family was like, don't you think it's about time that you like try to do something different, But I never left the friends. I never left the environment. I never left the job. But it was becoming more and more apparent.
Yeah.
And I couldn't keep this gig up much longer. You know what I mean? So anyway, the one accident that I had gotten into, I think that was a Jeep then too. I'm a Jeep girl, so. I was also working a side gig for a friend. He had a bar in Pigtown, and it was football season.
Nice.
And he said, Mandy, I need somebody to come down here who can,
knows what they're doing. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, sweet, make extra money. We won. I can't tell you who we played. I don't know the score, whatever, but I know we won.
There you go.
Because my tip
That's
jar,
all that matters.
My tip jar was full, So I did what I always did. Took my shifty, went on the other side. Customers, they want to buy you shots. Always welcome that. Love that. And I was like, all right, I should probably start heading home. So I went to the regular full-time bar to check the schedule. Air quotes.
Yeah.
I didn't need to check the schedule. I had the same damn schedule every week. I remember the owner coming up to me, the wife, and she says, Mandy, let me drive you home. I said, I'm fine. And then, again, blackout, get behind the wheel. I'm on Cleansville Road, which is like a real twisty, turny road up there in Carroll County, and ran off the road, flipped it. They told me that I flipped it end over end and barrel rolled it like twice. I don't know how they came up with that, but okay. I mean, all my back windows were busted out. It was a Grand Cherokee. The hatch was open. All my shit was everywhere. And I remember coming to like wet. So it either rained or the dew or something. Like I remember I was wet. It wasn't bloody or anything. I was fine. Yeah. And then I hear somebody from the road say, "Are you okay?" And like at that moment was when it was like, I felt this pain from like my left side all the way to the top of my head, like all the way down. And I was like, nope, like this is it. You know what I mean? Like that moment when you're like, you can't run anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody left to come tow you out of this. Because me and the ex were fighting like cats and dogs at this point. Because I was the drunk ass bitch, and like I just knew there was nowhere to go. I knew I couldn't run fast enough to get out of there. I was like, no, I think I need an ambulance. So they show up. It's a local fire department. They all know me. I'm a bartender, and they get me in the medic and they take me somewhere. I come to, again, my mom's there with her best friend. I'm screaming at medical staff, like, give me something. And you're like, your BAC is like, no way.
Yeah.
You could suffer through this one.
Oh.
And then, anyway, I end up going later, a couple of days later, to go get my stuff out of like the Jeep at the impound. And those guys, all my tip money was still there.
Really?
My fucking weed was still in my purse.
That's shocking.
Like
those guys raid those cars all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And but I think in combination of like being their bartender and those guys being regular, like the fire department and the junkyard guy, you know what I mean? So that doesn't help anything. So I still got all the money, still got all the drugs, you know what I mean? But I did end up going to court, and that's $50 I spent on the public defender. She got me off on the fact that the hospital did not record my BAC right.
Jesus Christ.
And it was like 2 point something. I mean, it was stupid. Like, I don't remember exactly, but I know that like the state's attorney and the cop, they were pissed, And I was like, great. But in preparation for that court case, like I had gotten I ended up with a Toyota Camry. So I had gotten the blow and go put in, and was doing all the things.
Yeah.
Never left the job, just kept going. Then I found myself with too many morning after fails in the blow and go.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, guess what? You still need to surrender your license. And it was really, just at that point that I was like, I mean, this can't continue on. And my kids are getting older. Their father never stopped using. He was always a functioning addict. He was way more functioning than I could be. I don't know. He was just better at it. And, I just kind of came to this point. I mean, it's not this huge, like, groundbreaking aha moment. I mean, I guess it is, but I just like found myself sitting on my bed in my bedroom one particular morning. It was like 9 a.m. It was like some god awful time because I was a bartender. So it was like, I hate this time. And I found myself sitting there with a joint in one hand and a fifth of my favorite whiskey in the other.
What was your favorite whiskey?
Jim Beam.
Ew.
And I was a bourbon girl.
Ew.
Yeah.
And just finally feeling sick and tired. Like this is.
Yeah.
I looked around my bedroom. It looked like a teenager's room. It looks like my son's room right now. It. And I was like 30 at this point. So anyway, all the things happened, and I made a phone call to my insurance company. Because I had called previously for something for the kids, and I remember I was on hold, and I heard the recording. If you have a drug and alcohol problem, you know.
I didn't know you could call insurance companies for that.
But that's the only reason I knew.
Oh.
Because I had to like...
I mean, it makes sense.
I don't even know why I had to call for one of the kids. Maybe to see if they could go to a certain doctor or something. But yeah, so I did. Mm-hmm. I called my insurance company, and they tried to give me pills to quit drinking.
Oh, the Antabuse?
Yeah, or they were like, we could also get a shot. And I was like, no, listen. Like, if I'm doing this, it's got to be, like, I'm all in, you know? So they gave me the number to 2 places, 2 recovery places. I called one and never picked up, and I actually left a voicemail. The second place, they picked up before the first ring was even done.
That always creeps me out. I'm like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Were you expecting me?
We can have you a bed in like a week and a half. Like, can you make it that long? And I was like, I think. So like, I kind of got my affairs in order, which sounds weird, right? But like, I was ready. And so like, I took my earnings and put them in envelopes, like in my chest drawer. I got my friends at the bar to cover my shifts. And I worked like the Wednesday night, like before, surrendered my license, did all the things.
Did you use in that week and a half or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
totally.
Oh, yeah. I was a bartender. I mean, at the end, it was alcohol.
So you were like 99% in.
Yeah. I was like, let me go ahead and just get this. You know. And then my nephew picked me up that night. And so this is what I did. I did all my, because I took my bar job very seriously. And I did all my end of night stuff. I cleaned, I stocked, I did all the things. And then my nephew came in and I gave him a 6-pack of Bud Light. And I said, I bought this. It's for me.
Yeah.
And he went out and waited while I locked all the doors and everything. And I went up to the kitchen, my boss's office, and I put the money down on the table. And I put a letter, like I wrote a letter, like peace out.
Yeah.
Put myself in treatment, and like with the restaurant keys, set the alarm, walked out. Get in my nephew's truck. He's driving me home, and I was like, "Hey, so Aunt Mandy's going to rehab tomorrow," and he was like, "It's probably a good idea."
Yeah.
And that night I packed my bags and I wrote my mom a note. Tried to smoke all the weed I had, tried to drink all the alcohol I had.
Yeah.
And I paid a regular customer of mine, who was a girl. She used to come in every Tuesday night after bingo. It was funny because she was young too, and she still played bingo. But anyway, I paid her $50 and a pack of cigarettes to drive me to Crownsville.
Nice.
And she did.
Yeah.
And when I left the house, I left the note on my mom's pillow. And the reason why I did that is because I didn't want the confrontation, and I didn't want anybody, like I didn't want the owners of the restaurant to say, well, we'll just take you out from behind the bar.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my mom to say, what about the kids?
Yeah.
Because I did line it up with my ex. He had the kids, and it was like taking a huge gamble at that point because I really wanted to take the kids from him, just because the relationship was so bad. So, yeah, I mean, I went to treatment and detoxed safely off of alcohol because I heard
it can kill you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was like making this decision, I felt like, for my kids. So I was like, well, I don't want to die. Like, I'm making the decision to live. So, and I was there for 28 days, went to a recovery house in Glen Burnie. I went there because I'm familiar with the area. And that's how it started. And then again, obviously, that's how I was finally introduced, like finally went in and was like, I'm doing this. And I remember there was this old guy, had like 30 some years at the time. And I had like 20 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, you're like a giant, you know? And he's like, you're going to be okay, Mandy. You're going to be okay. And I just remember hearing that. And then, you know, so I just started the journey. I did not have my license the first 4 months in recovery. So I'm living in Glen Burnie, and the number 14 bus runs all the way up and down Ritchie Highway.
Yeah.
Like it'll go all the way down to Annapolis and all the way back up, you know. But I didn't always have the money.
Yeah.
I remember the first day from treatment to recovery house. I met the house manager, and I had my cell phone. And she's like, well, it must not have been that bad for you. You still got your phone. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, like I left money behind so my mom could pay my bills for me.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was already such a burden, you know, like I felt like I'd made such a huge decision already to try and clean up myself. Like I didn't want to just, you know, like even at that point, I realized all the damage I had caused, and I didn't want to just keep doing it. Even then, even though I knew that I had no fucking clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was there for a few months. The only job I had was finding my way to the meeting. I mean, depending on what day it was, and if you had bus fare, I mean, you could hit any fellowship up and down Ritchie Highway all day long.
Oh, yeah.
I humbled myself, and
that's probably the best part about Ritchie Highway.
Yeah.
Is that there's meetings everywhere.
Well, and there was meetings you could walk to from the recovery house. So, and like they really weren't that far away. So if I walked to a meeting, there was like a 99% chance I was going to find a ride home to the recovery house. And then if I was smart, I'd line up the next day. But I went to ShopRite grocery store, got a job.
Awesome.
For like $8.50. Talk about humbling. Like, you know how many bars I walked past?
Oh, yeah.
Like trying to
convince yourself not to go in there and get a job.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because it wasn't about the using. It was about the money.
Yeah.
The hustle.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember I walked to the Glen Burnie MBA because I was like, okay, so how many flaming hoops of fire are you going to make me jump through to get my license back? And like somehow I went from like this person to this person to this person. And finally I found myself like on the second floor of the MBA. Who knew?
There's a second floor.
Yeah. And talked to like some pretty like important people. And they were like, okay, come back in 30 days. And I did. And they're like, oh, you got to wait another 30 days. And I was really discouraged, but I did it. Yeah. You know, because I was like, there's nothing I can do.
The MBA will discourage anybody.
Yeah. Got my license back, started, being the person giving people back rides. I became of service pretty early on. I was literature, in the Glen Burnie. Yeah. And I liked it. Yeah. I basically just filled home groups' orders with the literature and key tags and stuff that they needed. And I was like, this is cool. We can do this. Learn how to make coffee, how to set up the room, learned all those things. Yep. Got my first sponsor there, who was batshit crazy. But she was great. She was exactly what I needed at the time. So at about 8 months clean, I was like, all right, it's time to get, I got to get back to real life. Yeah. And I found my way. I kept, coming up to Westminster, kind of exploring the area. I would go to meetings and I would say, I'm new to the meeting, new to the area. Yeah. You're just trying to get myself established. Got another home group, lined up another sponsor, but still celebrated my first year in Glen Burnie. And, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do what I know and I'm going to go and be part of literature. And then the person in the area I'm in now was like, oh, I've been doing this for like 8 years. Here you go. Here's the keys, you know?
Yep.
And, but then I also learned at that point, like the levels of service. Like I went to like regional literature chair and stuff like that. I mean, it was really cool though, because like I was super involved. I met so many people.
We need people like you because I am not about that life.
Well,
that is not my service.
That was the beginning. So I started getting my kids more and more and more. And my oldest daughter expressed her interest in softball.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Right. So I was like, okay, here's my chance to show up for my kids like I needed, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, before you know it, you learn real quick as a mom, single mom with kids in sports, like that becomes your life.
Yeah.
And that was okay for me.
Yeah.
And I had to resign from those service positions.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something that we talk about enough, honestly, parenting in recovery.
Absolutely.
I feel like, you know, everybody's like, you know, you got to put your recovery first. And I absolutely believe that. I believe that that is so important in the very beginning. But when you've got these kids, that, you know, my kids now, the oldest is 18. She's going to move out 11 days before her 19th birthday.
Nice.
She just finished her freshman year of community college. Mm-hmm. She wants to be a teacher.
Fantastic.
You know, my twins are 17 and a half.
Boys?
Boy and a girl.
Okay. I was like, if it was twin boys, you're in...
Are they identical or fraternal?
Fraternal. So...
Wait,
no.
Wait, yeah, a girl and a guy can't be identical twins.
No. I don't know, I'm asking the question.
They do resemble each other, but
yes,
they're not.
Obviously, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to be seniors in high school.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest daughter, one of the twins, started playing soccer. She went into field hockey. She's now verbally committed to a D3 college.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So she's like already going. Mm-hmm. She's going into her senior year, going to go into the fall season, know that she's
knowing
committed.
Her next step.
Yeah. I mean, not that means that she should slack off, but I'm just saying, like, wow, what a relief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to know that, you know, we're actually going there next weekend because they've got like some clinic thing going on, and and then my son, he played baseball. I love baseball, and he has gotten himself out of it just because he's so busy. Like he's in the volunteer fire department. He's in tech, the trade school up my way that is diesel mechanic. Nice. You know, like he does FFA stuff. He's like the vice president, and but does like the ag mechanics of it, like the welding and the.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's definitely like a tradesman, you know.
Yeah.
And so like 2 years ago, even before that, back up just like a tad, it was probably 7 years ago that my kids came to me. I picked them up over winter break from their father's house, and they were like, yeah, we don't want to go there anymore. You know, their father and the girl that he was seeing at the time, I mean, they were just hardcore, into the opiates, into, you know, whatever. And like when that happened, I remember hearing like this little voice in my head saying like, this is it. Like, this is what you've been preparing for.
Yeah.
You know? And I remember I called him and I said, the kids don't want to come back. And he started crying and he was like, I don't want to be here either. And I said, man, nothing changes if nothing changes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I can do the same for you that you did for me in a heartbeat. You took the kids when I went to treatment.
Yeah.
You know, and, but then he says, I'm not a quitter.
Why?
Okay.
How is that like a point of pride? I don't quit drugs. Like,
so
sometimes it's good to quit, buddy.
So eventually, what ended up happening there was
fucking quitter. What an ass.
He was an asshole, and so it was like a good 5 years. He just like disappeared. But there was a lot of that. Like there was no custody, there was no court thing. Like I was constantly worried that like he could come to the kid's school and try to take him out. You know, it was like always like in the back of my mind, like this constant worry. And then he showed up one day on my porch, tried to like sell us a bunch of bullshit none of us were buying. Mm-hmm. And because even my kids, like my oldest daughter's like, where have you even been?
Yeah.
Like, what have you been doing? Are you even clean? Mm-hmm. You know, and like she knows the lingo, right? Because that's what happens.
Yep.
And so we didn't hear from him or see him for like a long time. And then 2 years ago, he died of an overdose. His death certificate says like 3 different kinds of fentanyl.
Jeez.
Something that starts with an X that I can't pronounce.
It's probably carfentanil, and then fentanyl and some other thing.
Well, whatever starts with an X is like a horse tranquilizer.
Oh.
And then cocaine.
That's big right now is the tranquilizers that are getting like stomped on with like the
so
batches.
Oh my God.
So I would be lying to you if I said that, you know, I mean, I was honestly, first of all, I was a lot more upset than I thought I would be.
Yeah.
Because I fucking hated him.
Yeah.
You know? But then I was relieved. And what I mean by that is mostly because he's an addict that doesn't have to suffer anymore. Oof. Like he never found the rooms. Mm-hmm. He said on my porch in front of me and my kids, when my oldest daughter asked him if he goes to meetings, he said, "I'm not a quitter." Huh. And I was getting ready to celebrate 9 years, I think, at the time. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, fuck you. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, after that, you know, the oldest took that really hard, you know, obviously, because she's the one that had like the biggest connection with him. Mm-hmm. The twins were kind of like, I mean, they were upset.
Yeah.
But it was a whole thing, man. Like his mom wasn't even going to tell us. I mean, it was all very toxic and crazy.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We were able to view him before they cremated him. They didn't put any makeup on his face.
Oh, that's not good, man.
Had to pay $90 for 15 minutes. We weren't even there.
You have to pay for that?
Yeah.
Did the kids see him like that?
And the grandmother.
Fucking racket.
Yeah.
Did the kids see him like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful, man. That's.
I mean, there was so many. Listen, and that was another thing too, right? That was like on one hand, I shouldn't take them to see that. That's forever going to be etched in their brain.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like we have to say goodbye.
Well, and that's forever etched in their brain is like
don't do drugs.
Like
yeah.
I mean,
like I still see it. I still see it. You know,
that's giving me goosebumps. Just thinking that's just horrific.
His face was purple.
Yeah,
it was gnarly.
Yeah,
it was really bad.
People look gross after they die.
Yeah.
So anyway. I mean, it gets us to present day. I mean, like I said, you know, I mean, they're doing amazing. Mm-hmm. And people tell me, they're like, you did a good job, Mama. And I'm like, I did that?
Yeah.
Wow. And I feel like I know we have to get clean for ourselves, and it has to be like a legit decision for us.
I know where you're going with this.
But like, I did this for my kids.
Yep.
And like, look at them, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm trying not to brag, but fuck it. Like,
fuck that brag.
Awesome.
Yeah, fuck that. You're a single mom. Hey. Brag as much as you fucking want.
You brag about your kid.
Hell yeah.
It was funny the other day, my friend said something about like, oh, I read this parenting book. And I was like, nobody gave me the fucking book.
Yeah. There's a fucking book.
Right. So, and then like, what's going on with me recently, I guess, is, right after Christmas, I was diagnosed with stage 3 rectal cancer. So I have been undergoing cancer treatments. I also work for the school system. So I took all those years of restaurant business and took it into the school system, and I'm a cafeteria manager at a middle school and an elementary school, which is challenging, right, in its own way, but also very rewarding. I was somehow able to work this year going through cancer treatments. And yesterday was our last day. And I was so grateful. I was like, thank God. Like I can finally turn the focus in on me, you know, for at least a couple months. So, and really what I feel like I've been doing for my recovery in that time is just staying clean, man. You know, because there's like, so many times that I've never thought of using. But it's also just like, I don't know. Sometimes I just don't have the energy. I'm like, step work? Really?
Yeah.
One day. And I know that sounds, you know, ideally we should be actively working on, you know, but it's
a process.
It is what it is, man.
It's a process. Anybody who doesn't understand that is probably not a single mom with 3 kids.
Yeah.
Like if anybody tried to give a single mom with 3 kids a hard time about not picking up her step work, I'd be like, okay, first of all, fuck you for real.
Yeah.
Mind your business.
Yeah. Well, thankfully my sponsor like knows all of that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. And she's, like I'm actually on the 10th step and she's like, you know,
you're so close to the end.
Yeah, I mean, well,
I'm on 11, and I have 10 years.
Well,
I'm like, oh, do I really just go across the finish line?
It's definitely not a race.
No,
it's not a race.
No.
But she was like, you know, the 10th step, like doing your inventory, daily inventory for 30 days would really be helpful right now. And I'm like, I don't doubt that. Like, I agree with you. Yeah, probably.
Yes.
Do you have that time? Can I have that?
Well, maybe now.
Yeah.
You know, school's over.
Yeah, school's out.
Yeah, I usually work the summer, but for obvious reasons, I'm not.
Cue Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
School's out for summer.
Yeah.
That's a good reference.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so, I mean, today's a good day.
Yeah.
Today was not. I mean, yesterday was not, but today is. You know, and that's kind of how it goes every day. I try to be positive. Like when I'm out, when I go to a meeting, because I can definitely be negative Nancy real quick.
Of course.
It's also generally who I am. Like I'm not really like very social kind of person.
Me
like
too.
Yeah.
Feelsies.
Yeah. Not like that over the top, extra exuberant.
I'm weird. I'm like an extroverted introvert.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I like doing all the
things. Are you a Scorpio?
No, I'm a Virgo.
Oh, okay.
But I like going to like the cookouts and going to see people. But like after I'm done with it, I feel so drained. I'm like, that really like,
you know what's funny is like the most recent Memorial Day picnic. I think you were there too.
Yeah.
I found myself. None of my kids were there, and my kids are like just about adults. You know what I mean? And I'm still out front with the kids. I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
Did you see in Facebook memories pictures from Sabrina's from like 5 years ago?
I think so.
There's no kids in the pictures. There's none. And then we were there, and it was nothing but, I swear to God, there were more kids than adults there.
Yeah.
It was insane.
There's a lot of kids.
It was all the kids.
Yeah. But it was definitely kind of nice sitting back and like observing and knowing that I did not have to go correct that kid or go pick up that crying kid or go change that kid's diaper or whatever. I could just be like, whose kid is that? That's like throwing the balls at the other kid's head, you know?
That was not my kid. Not my kid. My kid wasn't really, like, Magnus was not messing with anybody. He was just walking and doing his own thing. He is very independent. No, I love it.
Yeah.
But all right, we definitely have some questions for you. Carly, would you like to go first?
Sure. Right. Since we are on the topic of talking about kids and parenting, and you mentioned earlier that you like that it's not talked about enough. Was there like ever a point where you had to sit down with your kids and talk about addiction and recovery and help them have that understanding?
Well, I've always been honest with them. I don't know if we actually had like the talk, but I think, you know, I remember times when my mom would bring them down to the recovery house to visit me, like when she'd be babysitting, especially. And they'd be like, Mom, why are you here? Like, what? You know, it's a room with 2 single beds and 2 different dressers and 2 different closets. And, you know, and And I would just tell him, like mommy went to the hospital so when I went to treatment, Maddie was 7 and the twins were 5. Mm-hmm. So, obviously Maddie would understand it more.
They had their wits about them a little bit.
Yeah.
They knew something wasn't adding up.
Yeah. And I was like, mommy quit drinking. And, I needed to come here to get that help. Mm-hmm. That when they were that young. Mm-hmm. And then as they got older, they would ask me questions and I would tell them. And I think that it was awesome to open up that dialogue with them, because now if they, it's kind of funny, but it's not. But my oldest daughter, she it's funny, she went to a friend's, one of her best friend's parents, like the mom was getting remarried. Okay. So Maddie would go on vacations and yada yada, and she got invited. She called me. It's like 11:30 at night, and she's like crying, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And she's like, you're gonna hate me. You're never gonna talk to me again. You're gonna hate me. And I'm like, what happened? And she's like, I had a drink. And I was like,
how old was she?
She was 17.
Okay.
Yeah, like 16, 17. Yeah.
Around that age.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she was like
mortified.
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm like internally like laughing hysterically, because I'm thinking like, this is like the first, not that I think not that it's okay. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, first of all, she called me to tell me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Second of all, that she was just like so scared that it was going to like taint a relationship. Mm-hmm. And I just, the next thing that I said was, are you okay? Do I need to come get you? Mm-hmm. And she was like, no, they said I can stay here. They took my keys. And I'm like, okay.
That's the best 17-year-old ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't calling my parents at 17.
I know. I was not either.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, that's funny. All right. No, and actually, just to touch on that, like that is a fantastic thing about recovery, is because I like through the DARE program, which we all in this room think is garbage.
I do have a shirt though.
I have a ruler.
That's awesome. I did not know that.
I have a ruler.
The DARE ruler.
Yeah.
I saw a shirt on Facebook today that said "Dare Dropout."
Oh my God, I'm buying that shirt.
That's good.
I am buying that shirt.
There's some kids in middle school that like got their hands on some like retro DARE shirts, and it's so funny too, because I'm like, oh, I like your shirt.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
What do you know?
Yeah.
It was a great idea. I think it filled a lot of kids' heads with misconceptions. So the fact that can change from people in recovery and actually have an open, realistic dialogue, and also the fact that they literally saw the consequences of it.
Yes.
With their dad, like that, and like not to say that like a scared straight thing always works or whatever,
right?
But like that's tangible evidence to them. And the other side of that coin is like you've been living your best life, and I'm sure they saw the difference in their mom through the years. So the fact that they can see that practical, real life application of recovery and what it does and the consequences of substances, it gives them a real feel for what to expect moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. All right. Can I ask 2 questions?
I don't care. Go for it.
It's going to be a fun one.
Okay.
Okay. First one's going to be a fun one for the group. And we'll start with Mandy and go around. Who's your favorite Oreo of all time?
All time?
All time. Favorite Oreo. Not the best. Who's your favorite?
I have my answer.
You have your answer?
I do.
Okay, Carly, go first.
Yeah. J.J. Hardy.
J.J. Hardy. Okay.
He's a stud, like a low-key stud.
Yes. Yeah, J.J. Hardy's a solid answer.
And I enjoyed looking at him, too.
Ooh,
so,
okay. All right.
Yeah, he was a good one to look at.
J.J. Hardy.
What you got, Eric? Who's your favorite Oreo?
Wait, come back to me for a second.
Okay, Mandy, what do you got?
Well, I mean, I would say, as a kid, Cal Ripken, right?
Yeah.
Because, and that's
Dude,
a funny piece
he was
too.
the got milk guy. Yeah.
Because my family, like, they were like sit in front of the console TV in like the 80s watching the NASCAR race, where I was like always sitting on the floor in the carpet with my baseball cards watching the Orioles play. Like, I'm the only baseball player, or you know what I mean, in the family.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made my kids baseball fans, but
Yeah.
so I would say, like, growing up, it was definitely Cal Ripken Jr. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I got to go with Adley Rushman right now.
Right.
Oh.
But Gunner's coming on strong right now. Also, I was a big BJ Surhall fan.
Oh, yeah.
And
BJ
Cedric
was
Mullins.
fantastic. Yeah.
BJ,
Did you see his catch, like, it was a couple months ago? Whatever.
Yeah.
It was like basically the catch of the year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was like, I'm
He's
still
a gold
talking
glover.
about it. Yeah.
He's killing it.
Yeah.
Who you got, Eric?
Eddie Murray is probably my favorite.
Eddie Murray. All right.
But
A little before your time,
you
but
want
okay.
a little hot take about Cal Ripken? He's the Frank Gore of...
We're not going to talk about this.
Yeah. You agreed with me kind of at the end, though. Like, he's the Vince
I understand
Carter.
what you're
You
saying.
understand the logic.
I
Like,
understand
yeah,
what you're saying, but
yeah.
he's still a friggin' legend. It deserves to be in
He
the Hall of
He's
Fame.
a legend, but he's not...
He deserves to be in the
a
Hall
real
of Fame.
legend.
I'm trying to, like... He's just not... They have him as number 1 on the list, and I get it for the record, but, like, I just don't...
He's not the greatest Oriole of all time.
He's not the best player who's ever been on the Orioles. So
No,
he
no,
should
no,
not
no,
be
no.
number 1. Like,
No.
personally.
No. And for me, my favorite, and it just absolutely it ripped my guts out, was Mike Messina. I was a big my favorite baseball player of all time was oh my god, Nolan Ryan. Loved him. I've just always been fascinated with pitchers, and Mike Messina was really the Orioles' last great pitcher.
He was good.
And the fact that he went to the Yankees,
hurt.
Just gutted me.
I love Elias, though. Like, I love that guy.
Mike Elias is fantastic.
Like, dude,
if anybody in Maryland listening to this, you're totally getting off on this podcast right now. Everybody outside of Maryland, you couldn't give a shit. Europeans, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the baseball
the AL East might be
conversation.
into this conversation right now.
Who?
The AL East teams.
Oh, yeah.
I'm drawing a blank, but who's our, like, the relief pitcher that they've been using the most right now?
Cano?
Cano. They have Yanni or
Or
Cano,
Batista.
Felix Batista.
Batista's our closer.
I think it's Batista. No, but there's another one.
Dude, he just throws heaters. He just comes up to the plate. I'm going to throw 5 heaters at you, and you're not going to hit any of them.
I know.
I'm gonna throw 101 at you, and you're not gonna hit it.
I have a friend of mine who's a pitching coach for his travel team, and he's like, I mean, we like talk about the breaking ball and stuff like that. I'm like learning so much because I don't have my seats.
Yeah.
You know, so I've like watching it on TV. Yeah.
All right.
Not that my kid's playing baseball anymore, but yeah, whatever.
Well, all right. That was the fun question. Okay. Oh shit! I hit the mic. We're all taking turns. You talked about really the lifestyle a lot. Just like the using lifestyle, the bar lifestyle, those friends. So how difficult is it, and was it, moving on from the using friends, the bar regulars, that lifestyle, and getting out of it and adjusting to really a new way of life?
So there was definitely a couple people that genuinely gave a shit about my well-being. You know, from the bar friends, from that.
There's always a couple bar regulars that are like that.
Yeah. Like the one who drove me. You know, there was several times that she was my like rescue, like, hey, come get me phone call. Can I crash on your couch? You know, and she started off as a regular customer. There is some mutual friends from my ex and I that we kept in touch over the years. One chick that gave me all of her sons, who's like 6 foot something, like my son's like 6'3". Well, their father was like 6'4". So for years, she was giving me all of his hand-me-downs. And it was great because it was all like the tall jeans. And, you know? So, you know, there was some people that I kept in touch with. Towards the end of his life, there were some of his old friends that were trying to get in contact with me, to get in contact with him, because like they just really didn't know how bad it got.
Yeah.
And didn't know that I hadn't seen him in 5 years, you know? And then, you know, I mean, it just, there's some people that I would see, or some people that I'm like, I hope I've changed enough they don't recognize me, and they don't want to start a conversation.
Yeah.
Or, you know, ask how I'm doing.
Yeah.
But then coming into the rooms, it was difficult at first because I went to a recovery house with like 12 other chicks. That was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough. There was a lot of fights.
Yeah.
I remember one time, one girl was like getting her ass beat in the living room over a fucking coffee cup in the sink.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
like,
crazy.
What is going on?
What the hell?
That's recovery house life.
That's Glen Burnie for you.
Yeah. I think now, you know, it's cool because you find a lot of people in the rooms that share the same interests, like music.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm an artist, so I kind of find that I'm naturally drawn to the creatives. Parents.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. There was a lot of people early in recovery that knew I had kids and was like our mutual friend, Sabrina.
Yeah.
I remember somebody telling me you should go talk to her, and somebody telling her you should go talk to Mandy, because we had such similar situations.
Yeah.
For a long time.
And you guys have right around the same clean time, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And about the same age. Yeah. So that was.
Listen to Sabrina. If you haven't listened to Sabrina's podcast, go listen to hers.
I will.
Oh, I legit cried.
Well, yeah, of course you did.
Legit. You right? Shut up.
Doesn't take much.
No, she's a fantastic lady.
Yeah, she is.
Thing is always that blew my mind about Sabrina.
Yeah, Sabrina was fantastic. All right. What do you got, Carly?
So when you mentioned resigning from your service position, so how, while your kids were like growing up and you were involved so much in that and raising them, how did you keep yourself plugged into recovery?
Kept going to meetings, and I basically just kept my service commitments within the home group. Because I was like, this is the capacity in which I can show up. But what I will say is that everything I learned from being of service in recovery, right? Everything that the predecessors taught me when I first got here, I took that knowledge and applied it to the world outside. I became, board members on for the baseball organization. Started volunteering and helping out with softball. My oldest and my son also did marching band. My son's not going to do it next year just because he's got all this other stuff. But I became vice president of that executive board. So like still being of service.
Service. Service work.
Just not in that bigger visible.
It doesn't necessarily have to be strictly NA.
And that's the other piece that I think that we don't talk about enough. Is that
you're supposed to find a new way of life. That's what we're doing here.
And we bring these children into this world, and they are our responsibilities to care for. And if we were constantly on the run, putting our recovery first, which we should do, what does that look like? Especially to my kids. They saw me ripping and running, right? So what's the difference that when I come home and then I run right back out the door, I'm going to a air quote meeting, how do they know the difference? Right? And it's like when we first get clean, our significant others don't know the difference. Our kids don't know the difference. Our parents, family don't know the difference. So it's like you kind of have to find that, I'm not saying that we should like rewrite the way that it's always taught to us.
But there's no one size.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
There's no one size.
You have to find what works.
There should be like a second, not a second,
there has to be
like an after, a different stage, because you're not like 2 weeks clean the entire time.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Because Eric, we've heard horror stories from Tim about how at his 20-year anniversary, he had his kids come and they were like, we don't even know this guy.
Yeah.
They were like, he was, because he was doing 7 meetings of just exactly what you were saying. He was basically hiding out in meetings for like 10 years of their life. And we were like, we didn't know any of this about you because like you were gone.
My kids are my number one.
Yeah.
Like, and like when I get, like, I'm like, okay, July 12th. July 12th. And they're like, okay, all right. You know?
Yeah.
Like it's on their calendar. It's like a thing that we're going to, you know, like they're there.
Yeah. And like, I love that you said that because yes, we have to get clean for ourselves, but I stay clean for my wife. I stay clean for my kid. I stay clean for my network. I stay clean for a ton of my sisters,
some days,
my nieces.
When my ex was still alive, my favorite saying used to be like, "Out some days are just for spite." Yeah. Just to prove you wrong.
They're a fucking you know what I mean? Every day is a different reason to stay clean.
Right.
I definitely stay clean off spite.
Right.
Oh, I have stayed clean off spite. 100%.
I definitely.
Dude,
oh, you can't do this. Watch me.
Dude, my first couple of years, like, because when I was in jail, my oldest sister told my mom, she was like, fucking leave him in there. And for like the first couple of years, I understood what she was saying, and she was right, 100%. But like, I just kept that mentality. Was she like, she doesn't think I can do this? She's like, I know I can. But yeah, that's
exactly
is fantastic. Now I have one more question, and you talked about it. So it sort of came full circle where you were able to give softball to your daughter. And when you didn't get that opportunity, and how important are those amends to your kids? And if you, how is that played out in your recovery?
It was super important because it was a living amends, right? So it was showing up for them, taking them to practice, washing their uniforms, making sure, showing up to the games. Yeah. Like I'm already trying to plot and figure out how I'm going to get to see, like, how am I going to physically get to watch these field hockey games when, my youngest daughter's in college? Like they stream them, but it's not the same. Yeah. Like I want to go watch. Like I'm, but I just never understood why. I mean, my parents, they just didn't know, right? They didn't know anything else. They didn't know,
It's a different generation.
Exactly. So like when I had that opportunity to do that for them, and I was like, do you want to play? And they were like, yeah. It was a no-brainer.
No-brainer. Yep.
And there's something that a coach can teach the kids between those two white lines that a parent will never be able to teach. Like teamwork, sportsmanship, showing up, being dependable, loyal. I mean, like all of those things, but in a sport level. And, I think it's worked out pretty well. I mean, they, it also teaches respect.
Yeah. I was going to turn it over to Carly because she is a avid athlete.
What are you turning it over to me?
How important was it for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think sports probably saved my life. And the coaches that I had a lifelong impact. My teammates who became like family. Yeah. Like I still talk to like my college teammates all the time. I was just up in Jersey visiting one. Like we live all around the country, but it's like nothing ever changes. And if we need anything, like we drop it and we're there.
Yeah.
So it was always, whether it was college, high school, whatever, it was always a second team, like a second family.
Yeah.
And like on different terms. So like, again, like I think Allie actually, I think helped me when coming into the rooms, like helping me understand that mentality. Like on a team, you all were different, but you all had that same end goal, right? So the like-minded reason why you're there.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how the rooms are.
Yeah.
And like understanding it like that made so much more sense to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was one time when I had to use it as a disciplinary, teachable moment for my son. Like he was hanging out. He was in middle school. He was hanging out with this kid. I also lived in the neighborhood. They were both on the rec baseball team. Mm-hmm. The boy and my son. I'm not going to say it was one or the other. Yeah. They were both there. Vandalized the boys' bathroom. Right? And
what did they do?
Got them. I don't know. They really taking the wooden pass and throwing it up in the drop ceiling tiles and like flushing paper towels down, whatever. But the point is, he got busted, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm a single mom. Yeah. So I called the coach, and he ended up with Saturday school out of it. Mm-hmm. Just so happened that our game that particular Saturday was that afternoon. Mm-hmm. Saturday school was that morning. Yeah. I said, okay, so this is what I want to do. He's going to show up. He's going to be in full uniform, but he ain't playing. He's benched. Mm-hmm. And because this is what he did. And like, I need you to back me up. And he was like, okay, I'd do the same thing. Yeah. Great. The other kid's dad was like one of the assistant coaches and was like, well, he's got an obligation to the team. I said, well, then he shouldn't have fucking vandalized the bathroom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sports is a privilege.
Right. So exactly. And so coach put him to work. He was the pitch counter that day. Mm-hmm. So afterwards, this particular coach would take him out right field at the end of every game, you know, and they're out there on one knee. And I said, would you give Wyatt an opportunity to say, and he did. It wasn't scripted. I didn't tell him what to say. Mm-hmm. He just went out there and he said, look, guys, I'm sorry. I let you down today. I got in trouble. My mom benched me.
Yeah.
But,
hell yeah.
But he's like, I'm sorry. You know, and it won't happen again. I won't let it happen again. Mm-hmm. Well, this other kid had, you know, that it wasn't the same.
Yeah, it wasn't the same.
You know what
dynamic.
I mean?
Yep.
I'm not saying that this was like the moment, but that other kid is like, you know, in the bad kid school. He's Wyatt said he actually saw him at the carnival that his fire department does, and he was like, Mom, he's like, you should have seen him. He was so wigged out, like he was so high.
Your son is a volunteer firefighter. Okay, he's just a good person. Man.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter wants to be police.
Nice. Police,
which is funny.
Tradesman and a teacher. Fantastic.
Right. Well, and then the fire department.
Fire department as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they all want to be of service.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is cool.
Do you have a final question?
Well,
all right.
Let's end it on that.
All right. Well, we would like to thank our guest Mandy for joining us today.
Oh my!
Good. That is the most animated Eric has ever been. Fantastic.
Oh wait, yes. I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you ever look it up? If it was the Smoky Mountains?
Okay, so what, like, these maps are weird.
Thank you, Mandy.
Right? So, from what I'm looking at on Google, it's only showing me, as far as mountain ranges go, we have the Sierra Nevadas, we have Appalachia, and then we also have the Rockies, and that the Blue Ridge is part
It's the part of the Appalachians.
But yes. Smoky is kind of like, are those even fucking mountain? Like, what is that? Because
they're part of the Appalachians.
Don't question their mountainhood.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, seriously though, they're not represented on these maps.
Well, the Smokies and the Blue Ridge are both part of the Appalachians. I know. So are the Catskills.
Anymore, you know, or are they just hills? You know, like, I mean, is there a point where
they're the oldest mountains on Earth? They've gone through some shit, man.
I'm a little hurt right now that you're going to Smokies like this.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm looking at these maps. I don't see mountains. Maybe they're just hills.
I'm leaving.
I will slap you, Eric.
I'm out.
I love the Smoky Mountains. Tennessee.
Do you?
Yes, Tennessee is hella underrated.
It's gorgeous.
It's a great state.
Gorgeous. All right. Well, Mandy would like to give you one quick minute. Talk to anybody out there who's listening, needs to hear a message of hope. What do you have to say to them?
Just keep coming back.
Yeah.
Just keep coming back.
Yep.
Simple. Love it.
Yep. Short and sweet. All right. Well, hold on.
So wait, like the Adirondacks are like part of Appalachia? Like, this is
yes, the Adirondacks, the Catskills,
we can have this conversation when we're done.
This is an outside issue right now.
I mean, yeah, but sure, yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us once again here at Podcast Recovery. We are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed, who believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. All right, everybody, thanks for listening. Check out all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Shut up, Eric. For more information about us, go to podcastrecovery.com. Click on the little 3 bars up at the top, drop down, hit media. There you can go. Spotify, Buzzsprout, iTunes, Apple Podcast. I'm getting deep on this one. That's good. Like, share, subscribe. Please join our Patreon. We need help keeping the mics on because we are self-supporting. But absolutely, Carly, help me out. What is the most important thing?
Stay safe and stay clean.